Hello. Another Fairy Oracle reading for the Brian Froud deck. If you're watching the other ones, you already probably already heard that it's doing the readings from the book of the meaning of each of these cards, because so many of us now are channeling and intuitively reading the cards, especially with this deck. The meanings in the book are so long and they mean so many vast things. So not to take away from our channel meaning or the intuitive readings of the cards in a reading for you, but to give you a better understanding where the actual creator, Brian Froud, was coming from when he made the deck, to use that in addition to the channeled messages that the readers are giving you, so that you get more out of the reading, not to take away from the channeled message. Okay? So, Spirit, give us for Tuesday the cards you would like read for them, pertinent for Tuesday, please. Tuesday. What cards would be effective for the energy of Tuesday, November 5th? Tuesday, November 5th. Tuesday, November 5th. Okay, there's quite a few of them. Let me grab those. I like that one. Oh, I like them. Quite a few here, but all wonderful cards. I'm going to lay them out the way they were. I'm going to take the book here. Set these here. So the first one up is card 55. This is a soul shrinker. And if you look at the card, as just before we read the meaning, you can see, if you see it in a reading, what you would think that this card would mean to you, or how you would read this card in a energy, you know, in a positive light, negative light, etc. So I'm going to set that here. And then just to go through the ones we have here is 17. It's called Himself. I love this. This reminds me actually of like a Virgo energy, very earthy. Okay. We have Arval Parrots 50. And this has something to do with the throat chakra to me. And how we speak, or something said, that sort of energy. You have 22, the Master Maker, which is again like our higher self, our helping co-create our reality. The artwork in these are awesome. The Friends card, 46. $37, which is Tobial of the Waters. Again, see what you think you would read of the energy of the card in a reading. And 57, Lutha's the Wild. It's like our higher self that gets us into mischief to me. Somebody's into mischief. The little rebel card, maybe. Okay. So, I'm going to leave these 55, the Soul Shrinkers. Sounds scary. Okay, so the Soul Shrinker. This card, when this card appears, it's regarding cruelty, malice, gossip, curses, destruction, and blessing, all in one. Wow. Because sometimes things that happen that are negative for us actually end up being, in the long run, a blessing, right? So, and we know this. The distasteful task of the Soul Shrinker is to observe what we say to and about others, so gossip, okay? Especially the mean, nasty, and unnecessarily critical things. By observing our behavior this way, he reflects it back to us, making us more aware of this. This is a Bodhisattva, a spiritual being devoted to helping to bring about the enlightenment of all. This type of job, and it requires great compassion, understanding, and forgiveness if the Soul Shrinker himself is not to be dragged down to this level. If we are just inwardly sputtering, looking for words, he may even suggest to us the words that express our feelings and energy. Then it is our choice, our test, whether or not we say them. There are two important things about malice, gossip, unnecessary criticism, verbal cruelty, sarcasm, and scoring off of others. One is that it demeans the speaker, makes him less, makes his aura darker, and encourages the behavior as a habit, continually eroding the brightness and potential goodness of that speaker. The other important thing is that this is a way that we actually curse others, so in a magical curse sense, because you're speaking ill words on them. Remember, the words we speak are our bridge. Our words are a bridge to manifestation of curses or of good. Also, I think when speaking cruelty or gossip, it's a true tell of character of the person speaking it, not because majority of gossip, 99% of gossip, is lies. It's false. So, even if the recipient doesn't hear the actual words of the blessings or curse, even if the words are not spoken out loud, they are carried as discordant notes through ecstasis, card 2, song of the universe to the recipient. Fortunately, that is not all there is to it, or such behavior would be unforgivably wicked. Not that it isn't pretty nearly that anyways. We all have a choice about whether we accept curses or blessings. If we choose not to accept it, then all of the energy boomerangs back to the sender, who then gets a well-deserved double dose of it. Ouch. So you can also just, on a side note, not that it's in here, you can veto those thoughts or words when you speak them out loud to yourself, or you're speaking them in your mind. You can veto those words so they don't go out into the ethers to make them effective. Just a note, because sometimes we all sputter to ourselves. Once long ago, the Soul Shrieker was very beautiful, but listening to and witnessing all of this human ugliness has rubbed off on his appearance, like that of a lovely frog in a polluted pool, when his skin was raw and forming hideous growths. His heart is compassionate and anguished. His heartfelt wish is that we learn right speech and the right thought. Every wicked thing a human says makes a soul shrinker more ugly. Every time a human learns this lesson, the soul shrinker becomes a bit less ugly. As you can see, humanity as a whole has a lot of work to do on this. Critical and malicious thoughts and words are having a detrimental effect on a situation and people involved in it around us. Steps need to be taken to banish this cursed energy through love and compassion, or at the very least through forgiveness and a refusal to accept this curse onto oneself. Understanding the implications of this and transforming the behavior and feelings involved is a major and often very difficult step in human spiritual development. One of the things usually involved here is taking responsibility for ourselves and our own feelings rather than blaming others for the way we are. Another part of this process is to learn to be more compassionate towards ourselves if we can do that. It is much easier not to be horrible to and about others. This does not mean that we are supposed to be all sweetness and light all the time. Constructive criticism given compassionately is a part of being real, and reality is a good thing to be in touch with. So stand in your truth, be in your truth, but say things kindly. Do not say things from a malicious standpoint. Sometimes these things happen as well with the gossip and the malicious words about others, as a test on our journey of ourselves to be able to forgive that person who's speaking ill lies of us, and to understand and accept, still to unconditionally love ourselves, knowing that those things were not true, and then that you are not accepting that gossip as a curse that way. On a side note, of course. Didn't know that's what that one was about. So that's for, these are for Tuesday. So I'm going to pick up himself. Himself, a very handsome young man with red eyes. His crown, his third eye, and his heart chakras lit up. He's got his spiritual enlightening all around him. 17. Alright, I'm going to set that there. Alright, himself, natural law, life force, magic, shamanic power. Known as himself, this Siddhi is guardian of both the hunter and the hunted, and finds no conflict in that because he understands the many necessary balances of nature. The living bond between all life, himself, is the breath that moves, the atom that dances, and his magic is in pure being, living, loving. Onagus journeyman and the master maker have the magic of doing of this creational thing. The bright mother has the magic of manifesting and nurturing, but himself, he has the magic of procreation, of dancing the spark of life into the being. His presence brings magic and life into a world where it is shaped and given form by Earth Mother. He dances as the bright mother gives us birth, powering us into the world. He is the great Father. At the other end of our lives, he is the one who dances the great dance of life and death, and it is himself who, when the piper, card 24, plays his lonely call on the wave-swept shores at year's end, dances open the gate between the worlds, so that the dead may pass beyond. It is also he who is willing to sacrifice himself when that is necessary, for the sake of those whom he protects. In between those two extremes, his wild yang energy is channeled through humans to benefit tribes and family. His family is all of us, human and animal. Shamans draw upon this power, and the best healers channel a balance between his power and the bright mother's nurturing energy. Even as our hearts beat within us, we learn to meditate the life force through joyful being in action. Expressing this power through healing and love and trust, we become more like himself. When you receive this card, this appears in a card spread. He not only indicates that a great amount of energy is present in the reading, but he also strongly energizes the fairy cards around him. Everything he touches becomes more of whatever it is, more alive, more vigorous, more powerful, more awesome, and more awful. The card in a reading can indicate great vitality, victory, and triumph, confidence, and power. There is a leadership, an ability to command, steadfastness, and integrity. The wild power held and channeled for the good of all by will himself speaks of protection, either of the corent or of someone the corent owes protection to. Like a child or an elder, acceptance of paternal responsibility is important, as are deep and committed relationships. He is the preserver of the natural world and its balance. Shamanic power may be indicated here, as well as potential for powerful spiritual healing. This card may also speak of erotic energy, passion, and potent creativity. So it's like Mother Earth and Father Sky. He's the great father. Arvel Parrot. I love this little guy. He's so adorable. Okay, I'm going to set this here. Oh, it's number 50. There you go. That way you can see which card we're reading. Arvel the Parrot. Communication. Like we didn't know that, right? Arvel points to the light in his throat center. Is esoteric lore. The energy center of the throat is about communication. Fairies are great communicators, though not necessarily in words as we use them. They speak through words, of course, but they also speak through the rustles of the leaves, the pattern of clouds in the sky, the way a flower petals falls. They tickle us with touches almost too subtle to feel, trying to get our attention. And they sometimes speak through our dreams and daydreams. Their communications are something like those of cats, part verbal, part body language, part telepathy, and part pure fairy. Arvel says that we humans can semaphore each other by flashing the lights in our throat centers. In fact, he says we do that and read the messages on an unconscious level, which is one of the ways we pick up on the unspoken feelings and thoughts of one another. Arvel also says, and I agree, that almost any situation can be improved of people listening to each other, and that listening is a full half of good communication. The other half, of course, is speaking truly and clearly. Some people use speech as a game or as a test for others to see if they can puzzle out the meaning, and this is fairly fun as long as actual communication doesn't get mattered. When it does, kind of like matted, when it does, though, it is helpful if we try for clarity at the very least, and hopefully wisdom as well. Arvel has many wise sayings to help us. It takes two to say yes, but only one to say no. Where the stream is shallowest, greatest is the noise. He that always complains is never pitied. Better than gold is a tale rightly told. 'Tis easier to give advice than to take it. From the place where deer are not, they are not easy to be got. Whoever burns his bottom must himself sit on it. Well, enough of that. Arvel reminds us that good, clear communication is sometimes hard to work. It requires elbow grease because the elbows are the secondary energy center to the throat. He wishes you to know that his elbows are well greased. When you get this card in a reading, clear communications are vitally important here. Strive for verbal brilliance. Listen carefully. Be articulate. Be willing to calmly debate the issue and explore ideas with others. Open communication will enhance the chance for success all around. Arvel also suggests that the querent watch the body language. Incomplete sentences, unfinished thoughts, try to discover what these signals are meant to get across. Read between the lines what's not being said as well, because sometimes silence speaks louder than words. "22, the Master Maker." This is awesome. So again, see what you think you would say in a reading for that. I love the artwork. 22, that's a, you don't break, 22 you don't break down, so it's a master number. The Master Maker has a master number. Skilled craftsmanship, magician, moral strength, and invention. The Master Maker is the master of the forge, upon which we create our futures and forge our own soul. He sees the world beyond the other world, the world of first cause. Though through his magic he brings them in his own world of fairy from his world. These concepts trickle down into our own world through dreams and visions picked up by artists and craftsmen everywhere. But he makes the first the original. He is the great inventor, and the sign above his door reads, "Practical problems are solved here." He sings as he works, and as in all fairy magic, his song does as much to shape objects as do the blows of his hammer. Healing cups, magic swords, fairy jewels, crowns of stars, and other bespelled works of the first finest craftsmanship pass through his forge and beneath his hammer. The master of fire, air, earth, and water, he adds the fairy element of moonlight to everything he creates. He would be the first to tell you that superb craftsmanship, however magical, is still hard work. Joyful and energizing hard work, but always challenging. As the Master Maker reminds us, no job is too small to do beautiful. His work is done as well as possible, even where it will never be seen by anyone else. Bringing ideas into excellent crafted reality can only be done when we, like the Master Maker, are willing to plan meticulously, begin carefully, and persevere through difficulties, learning still more of our craft as we work. Craftsmanship is also a labor of love. We must be willing to tackle difficult challenges and have a determination to surpass previous achievements. Patience is always required, as is the willingness to do a thing again and again until it is even better than the best one we could do. The Master Maker has the moral strength to refuse the temptation to do anything less. And he is a protector and a teacher of the traditional values of his craft. Yet, in balance to all of this, the Master reminds us that we also need to learn our own limits. Not everyone can do everything superbly. When we do discover our talents and choose our craft, then we gain great joy and fulfillment from development that skill into an art. We grow more like the Master Maker each time we do the best we can, and then stretch ourselves to do a little bit better than that. When you come across this card in a reading, do whatever you do as well as you can, and then make it even better. The Master Maker reminds us that our very best work is always desirable and in the present situation it is necessary for success. In fact, he asks that we surpass our very best. Don't cut corners and don't take the easy way out. Whether making a thing or fulfilling a concept, be sure the design is elegant, pure, and functional, and then follow it, attending to every detail in its turn. He says design beyond your skill, and then raise the level of your skill to fulfill it. Give and accept only the best, and do with love of your craft, whatever that craft may be. This card speaks of long-lasting achievement, creative problem-solving, and confident action. It may suggest cooperation with others, especially from a position of responsibility or of teaching one's crafts to others. Success comes from practical application of traditional principles in life and in work. The Master Maker. You're going to love this one too, this little guy. I wish they made these into little creatures. Oh, the Friends. Probably my favorite. And if it was you, would you be the friend or this guy? Which one would you be? Right? 46. 10. The Friends. Okay. The Friendship, Sport, Aid. The one on top is fair enough. So he's fair enough. And I've already told you that he wants me to say about him in the introduction of part 2. Well, that's weird. 46, the Friends. Huh. Okay. He and Laotian, his high-speed friend beneath him, so this is Laotian, are the best of friends and can nearly always be found together. Call upon fair enough and you get Laotian as well, and when you need support or to better understand true friendship, do call upon them. As children, we all have fairy playmates and fairy guardians. As we grow older, the pressure of parents and others in our community often nag us into blocking out those visions of communicating with the fairies. Fair enough and Laotian can help us go back to that childlike trust of the fairies and to renew our forgotten friendships with them. They can also often help us to learn more about the true meaning of friendship, like loyalty, trust, honesty. Let's see. Hands outstretched, reach across the rushing water. You steady me, I steady you on the slippery rocks of time. Hands reaching, giving, and giving in return. I am so grateful to you for being here. I could never have managed alone. That's from Brian Frog. Starting the reading. Okay, so when you come across this card in a reading, friendly cooperation with others is necessary to reach mutual goals. Willingness to give and receive assistance and support is also required. Ask friends for help and suggestions. Listen with respect and accept the gift willingly offered. Unconditional receiving is even more difficult than unconditional giving. 4 feet are more stable than 2. Alternatively, fair enough and Laotian may be saying that you will benefit at this time from offering support and aid to a friend. Look around you. Someone you love may be needing your help, and be too bound by fear of rejection or pride to ask. Volunteer your help to your friends and give unconditionally from a generous, loving heart. I will do you good. It will do you good, increasing your store of credit for help in time of need, and it might even help them. not to mention earn some good karma, but also that's what a friend does, right? And the biggest thing with giving unconditionally, it means you don't go bragging that you had to help them. You don't go looking for accolades for people to pat you on the back saying, oh, that was nice of you, because you're supposed to be doing it like anonymously, unconditionally, just because they needed help. All right? That's my own 2 cents. Okay, 37. I can't even read this. Something of the water. Tabaro of the waters. I'll read it in the book, 37. So see what you think you would think it is. Good. All right, and how you would read it in a reading. All right, 37. Tabara of the waters. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. No, I can't get the camera to catch it because I have too many things on the table. All right, well, it's emotions, serenity, meditation, graceful accepting change. Gracefully accepting change. Thank you, Spirit. For a moment, close your eyes and just let yourself feel the cool, sparkling fairy waters flowing through your fingers. Imagine drinking the sparkling coolness from your own cupped hands, and imagine the water flowing down your throat. You may even be able to feel that magical energy, filled coolness flow right through you to your toes. Feel better? Throughout the world there are healing wells, both for general health and specific ailments. In modern times, many of the fairy qualities have been diluted, even though Tabara and her healing helpers do all that they can to keep them clear and potent. Fairy waters reflect the emotional state of the human people around them. So the fairy waters that come through to our world have lessened impurity and power in places where people are living especially stressful civilized lives. As one Oracle Group member observed, there are profound connections with drinking water, tears, wells of forgiveness, water of the fluid of transforming nutrients in the body, and the connecting flow. I could flow on and on, but I will stop. However, the many healing fairies who help Tabara do the best that they can under circumstances to purify the waters, and they try to maintain their own merry spirits to give added power to these waters. We can help the fairies by creating more merriment in the lives of others and in our own lives. In addition to the healing wells, there are wells and springs that bestow wisdom or skill upon the drinker, like the famous Hippocrene fountain on Mount Helicon. I'm sure I did not pronounce that right, which bestows poetic inspiration. I suspect it of being a fairy fountain because of the way it works. If you have one drink, you gain a certain level of poetic ability. Another draught brings you more. And the third brings you to the full flower of poetry. The reason the world is not overrun with the magnificent poets is because, first, it is very difficult to find the spring, and second, the water packs such a wallop that most people stagger off after a single drink or two, and you only get one chance at the spring. There are also the fountains of youth, like the one on Dun Eye, the highest hill on Lona, the magical isle on the west coast of Scotland. I looked and looked for this fountain, but did not find it. I shall have a try again next time I'm there, because I am much more in need of it now than I was all those years ago. Don't know if that's the fairy talking or Brian. Water is mutable, changeable fluid, and Tabara speaks to us of a particular kind of change of emotions, and possibly a change in health. We have important choices to make about how we meet those changes and where we let them take us, toward the calm, flowing purity of the fairy waters or the boiling cauldron of hot tempers and steamy emotions. The choice is obvious, but we sometimes forget that we have it. Tabara reminds us that we do have a choice, and making it wisely or unwisely determines our future. The things we need in life remain constant, no matter what is going on, how hectic the changes and pressure in our lives may be. We need nurturing and love, and it is ultimately up to us to provide that for ourselves. The healing fairies will help us if we ask them to. Yes, remember that you need to heal yourself and love yourself unconditionally before you can love someone else, or before you can expect them to love you. So, healing waters. Oh, okay. 57. This will be an interesting one. I think he drank some slime. Lothus the Wild. So what do you think it's about? How would you read that? Envious. Ooh, I just heard envy. So we will dive into page 57 and see. Okay. Haste, impulsiveness, fire, spontaneity, and balance. Luthus, the wild, is filled with fire, and the fire is associated with the creative life force. This fairy fires us up, gets us going, recharges our batteries and creative energies. He likes to be around when things are exciting, when there is a life force blazing high, and he can jump in and encourage it to burn even higher. Creation and passion are his bailiwick. Faster, faster, faster is his motto. My bad. A waitress serving me breakfast looked over my shoulder as she rushed past and paused on her toes as she saw Luthus. "Oh," she exclaimed, balancing 3 full plates and 2 coffee pots. "He looks like a bad fairy. I don't want him in my life." Then she took off at a near run for the people down the aisle who were gesturing for coffee. We have to be careful with Luthus. He doesn't know the meaning of words like slow, stop, rest, respite, catnap, moderation, gradual, pace, gentle, ease, or peace. These are all things that humans must know in order to live creatively and constructively with him. Anything else is fatal, sooner or later, and probably sooner than later. The fire of Luthus can be destructive as well as creative. Rage, fury, anger, all part of the fire element as well. Fire burns as well as energizes. Think of the gentle warmth of a full and sleeping kitten, its inner fire converting milk to bone and muscle and extravagant friskiness, or the flame of the candle lighting the wanderer's way home, or the anger of a hurt soul lashing out at others, or an inferno of the forest fire, wild and overpowering. Creation and destruction are inextricably linked. The fire that burns creates ash, which in turn acts as fertilizer for new growth. The slopes of volcanoes are highly fertile, which is why people take the task of living and farming on them. Think of the phoenix, who lays her egg and then bursts into flames to incubate it. Birth, death, and rebirth are the cycles of fire, or they're the cycle of life. When you get this card says that the wild creative energies are being brought to whatever position it represents in the card layout. It often fires up things that surround it, represented by the other cards, energizing them as well. It tells us that it is important to think and act creatively, and it says that the energy to do so is available. New approaches are called for. Old ideas and old behaviors will not do. Sometimes it may be useful to draw another card or do an additional layout to get some suggestions about what those new ideas might be. Alternatively, Luthus may be telling you to go for something now, because now is the time. For example, another member of our Oracle discussion group was at a convention, and a man was demonstrating electronic devices. She was not particularly interested in them, but he and she talked about the different meters and tools for a while. She started to walk away, and then she thought, no, I've got to do this. She went back and told him, I don't think I'll ever forgive myself if I don't tell you. I think I'm in love with you. They've been happily married for many years now. Not sure why that's in there. Sometimes it is important to take the risk of making a fool of yourself to gain something amazing and wonderful and miraculously. Sometimes when Luthus says go for it now, it means now. It is important to do so, and sometimes it isn't. If the only reason for caution is that you're afraid or of looking silly, it probably is time to go for it. Remember that when you need to keep an eye on Luthus, don't let him have control of your schedule or the accelerator in your car. He always thinks going faster and taking chances is better, and sometimes he is even right. Use sense and stay grounded even while he takes you off on a flight of fancy. Okay, Earth energies might need some of him. So that is those cards readings, all right, for Tuesday. All right, namaste. Have a blessed day.